to episode 6 of the Bourke Sports Women's Hurling podcast. It's good to see finally everyone has all the tops on. I think I'd be a stickler for now. There's always one lad who turns up the train wearing the wrong top, Dave, isn't there? On the blue night he's wearing yellow, and on the yellow night he's wearing blue. Sure, look, we have it right. Thanks to the lads. We've all seen the designs for the All-Star jerseys. Cat out of the bag. Class. So if you're looking for any gear, get onto their new kit builder, bourkesports.ie, or fire Norma an email, norma.clancy@bourkesports.ie. We have a lot to get through. A few quick talking points, Fee, before we come on there talking about the high streaming figures today. It was class for the Galway Cork game.
So good. I remember I was impressed by 900 the week before, but there was nearly 2,000 looking at the Cork and Galway game today, which I suppose is a reflection on how the interest that those counties themselves have in camogie. But it was absolutely unreal to see like nearly 2,000 people tuned into that game, and what a game it was. Yeah,
and it's scary to think that maybe if like we weren't in a pandemic, maybe we wouldn't have seen Rebecca Hennelly's sideline cuts. Who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have been streamed. No, look, maybe it would have been streamed anyway, but you just don't know. So it's great. Anything happens in these games now going forward, like that we will have a record of it. Johnny Greville stepped down as the Westmeath manager. What a stint he put in. 5 years, took him from junior to senior. Won the 2 All-Irelands along the way, got promoted from Division 2 to Division 1. So he did a class job. So Johnny, fair play. We had him on the podcast earlier on in the year with his sister Pamela as well. So there was a family effort there from the Grevilles. He said in his statement that he's going to concentrate on Falls in 2021, which is the club he coaches in Dublin. I have a feeling he might have an eye on the vacant Westmeath hurling job, however. Soon to be vacant Westmeath hurling job, I should say. Speaking of managers, Limerick are looking for a new camogie manager as well. We're led to believe is the word that after the game today. So they'll be looking for expressions of interest from people. You made a good point there, Sarah, before we came on air, that Limerick kind of needs someone now to take the reins for 2 or 3 years and steady the ship a little bit, I suppose.
It's a much bigger commitment than just taking it on for next season. So I think the person who might have interest should consider that. It's definitely a 2-year plan, if not 3.
Definitely, and I suppose you'll remember in The Simpsons that they had a sign up in the factory that there were how many accident-free days there are. We are 1 controversy-free week in camogie. Unbelievable. We've very little to talk about this week, so let's keep it that way. But look, we've an awful lot to get through, so let's crack on, and we'll start with the game of the day. Davey, we took a road trip to Salthill. The temperature was a bit more bearable than it was last week for sure. It was a fine sunny day in Salthill, and the fair matched it.
Yeah, well, as you said, the temperature on the sideline was okay, but the temperature between the white lines, it was really up there. Like it really felt like a proper championship game. And they're 2 serious teams, and like they both have a lot more ambition than a group game. Like the question that we asked last week was, are they going to hold back a tactic or 2, or are they going to go for it and try and get into a semi-final? But by God, did they go for it? Like, and we were there early. Both teams were really professional. They both were doing their warm-up, and you could see the intent in both warm-ups that they were going to go at the game. I suppose like Galway eventually won at 15 points to 12, but like we honestly didn't know what way the game was going to go. It was ebb and flowing the whole way throughout. I suppose starting off, we talked tactics a small bit and formation-wise. So Cork's forwards were interesting. They were rotating the whole time, but they really played with four forwards, and then Ola Cronin just outside them. So Ola Cronin was playing on the 65, had license to kind of go where she wanted, pick up ball, and that's exactly what she did. But the interesting part was the 4 inside, we call them, the 4 inside forwards. We had 1 on the square, then we had 1 on the 45 in a straight line, and then we had 2, the other 2 were in between them, but both on the sideline. It was like a little diamond. And it was never one player in the same position. They were changing. Them 4 players were changing the whole time in a rotational type way. And it did cause Galway a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. I suppose the very first ball in the game, Amy O'Connor started inside on Sarah Dervin. Ball went into the corner. Amy O'Connor won it, threw on goal, won a penalty. Sarah Dervin got a yellow card for this, but then she was exceptional after that.
we could nearly start christening that as Sarah Dervin. Like, I pulled a Sarah Dervin. What does it mean? It means I got yellow carded early and still had a storm of the game afterwards. Like she nearly makes a habit out of it.
But that's the way it was, and in fairness, you have to give credit to her, because on a yellow card from the first minute, like literally minute one, Chloe Sigurdsson took the penalty, great save, like unbelievable save by Sarah Healy, and cleared the ball. But that was the ignition of the game. Cork really stormed into the game first half. They were on top for the first water break throughout. 3 points to 1 at the first water break, but the way they played, Chloe Sigurdsson was the other forward, we call her, but she played as a sweeper. But her role wasn't to defend, it was defend and then attack. And that's exactly what she did. Galway were all over the place from Cork's puckouts. When they weren't marking Chloe when she was sweeping, Chloe bombed up the field, collected the ball herself. When Chloe stayed back, it left the space in either wing for Orla Cronin to get the ball on from the puckouts. And she was magnificent in the first 15 minutes. I think she had 7 or 8 possessions. But then it changed. And we have to talk about Rebecca Hennelly's two sidelines, not just one. She was 45 to 50 yards out on the left-hand side and over the bar. Like in the stands, like there's no words to describe how good it was. Like in the stands as well, it was people who didn't know what the score was because.
Hold on a second, Davey. Who knew what the score was? Yeah, thank you.
In fairness, you did know that it was 2 points for the sideline, but people around were chattering. They didn't know what the score was. The scoreboard put up 1 point, and when we got the scoreboard right, the funny thing was it took 5 more minutes. There was a sideline on the far side of the pitch, and she scored it again.
Yeah. And just before that, Chloe Sigurdsson nearly popped on as well. Yeah, we were just saying, geez, like we haven't seen this before. Next thing, Chloe Sigurdsson had a cut-off one from the far side on the 21, only barely went wide, and then he stood up and did it again. It was phenomenal. It was just
I like the skill level between the two teams. Like throughout the game was savage to see. And just when I talked about, we say the Cork's lineup in the forwards, Galway didn't hold back either. They didn't play six forwards. They kind of played 2 inside with the 2 McGraths, Orla and Siobhan McGrath, close to goal. They brought Ailish O'Reilly out then playing as a fourth half forward basically. And I suppose they really took control of that after the water break. Second half then, I think it was 10-5 at half time. Second half, Cork really started on top again. And it was again the way, the intent that they showed, going for goal. Every time their forwards got the ball, they took on their player and ran at the Galway defence. When I said the Cork forwards were rotating as well, it was doing 2 things. It was taking a normal wing back, bring her back onto the sideline, bring her over to the far sideline. It was just confusing. Probably confusing is the wrong word to use, but it was just making the defenders think, what am I going to do? Am I going to follow her? Am I going to stay and wait till the next player comes on to me? Taking a corner.
You could argue it didn't really work though, David. I don't know, did it hinder Cork more than it confused Galway? You know, like they never really seemed to settle into a pattern in the forwards. Like they only scored 5 points from play. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's just
they scored 5 points from play. Orla Cronin got 4 frees. Chloe Sigurdsson got 3 more frees, but I suppose hers were a bit further out. They were kind of around midfield.
Some striker the ball.
Yeah, unbelievable. She got a free from on midfield onto the sideline, straight over the bar. But like performances throughout the field for both teams were all over the field. The Galway full back line, Heather Cooney, Sarah Dervin, Sarah Healy, immense throughout.
Sean
Healy, sorry. Aoife Donoghue, Orla McGrath up top, again, unbelievable. Only got a point from play, but by God, she worked hard, got a lot of frees, got a lot of assists as well. On the other hand, you have Chloe Sigurdsson, like played a defensive kind of midfielder, sweeper to perfection. She controlled that half of the field going into the forwards. Amy O'Connor was dangerous throughout. Orla Cronin was, again, savage. And I suppose it wasn't until the second half when Galway put Trina Cormacan. So it took off Siobhan McGrath, put on Trina on to man mark Orla, and by God, she just cleaned her out. And it just shows the strength and depth that you've talked about already, Sarah, that Galway have on the bench.
Yeah, and like I suppose like Teenie Cormacan is probably one of these players. We talked about Davina Tobin before that maybe operates under the radar a little bit. When Galway were in bother above in Thurles last year in the quarter final, Beth Carton was running right. It was Teenie Cormacan who went in and switched the game from as well and completely got on top for as well. So like, to have a player like that you can rely on, you know, when an opposition player is motoring well, that you can, you know, she's going to dampen it, like, is just great. Like it's such a weapon to have. Maybe some of these players don't get the credit sometimes for the role they do, you know. There was a couple of talking points out of the game, Davey, I suppose. You talked about the skill level there. Thanks to the lads in N-Tray. For anyone watching it on YouTube, you'll be able to see Rebecca's sidelines and Orla Cronin's over the shoulder score right here. If Davey's able to slice it in, I'm sure he is. But what about Paddy Murray's interview afterwards? Went in fairly hard on John Dermody. Personally, I thought he had a decent game. Like, it was a real physical encounter. He let it go as much as he possibly could. If it was under the old rules, maybe he could have given 40 frees, which nobody wants to see that. Paddy felt that Galway were overly physical and that they were hard done by. I don't know, as neutral sitting at the game, it didn't feel that way. I don't know what you think about it. No,
definitely not. Like, I think, like, I'm just looking here, Kerry Dolan got 7 points from frees.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, Cork had seven scoreable frees, or Cronin got 4 of them, Chloe Sigerson got 3 of them. So on scoreable frees, it kind of balanced out. But there was a lot of hard hits. But when the game went in, they were dealt with. They were given a yellow card. Sarah Durvan at the start got a yellow card. Like, and on the other side, Ashton Thompson had a hard enough tackle on Aoife Donoghue around the neck. Was dealt with, got the yellow card, which that's all it was.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, we spoke about this last week. Like, if we want the game to be physical, we can't complain every time a referee lets the game be physical. Like, there's leeway within the rules now that there is physicality allowed. So just let it happen. No, he did miss 1 or 2 Hurley drops. We talked about this as well. So I suppose, look, it's like, this has been part of the game for so many years. It's probably just taking referees a little while to get conditioned to it as well. But I suppose at that level it needs to be better. I think all in all, John Derby did a really good job today, so I don't think those comments after the game were fair. Paddy referenced last year as well. I think he's still bitter over Liz Mavy's performance, but look, Cork Galway had the better of them twice now, so yeah, I'm feeling they'll meet again. So
yeah, he made the point as well in his interview about Amy O'Connor getting a lot of attention, and I think that's not a surprise to anyone. You know, if she's shooting the lights out and getting goals the week before, of course she's going to get attention.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's part and parcel
of course. That's part and parcel of sport, isn't it, Sarah? So, like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think calling that out, Amy probably would be like, oh, this is my job.
Yeah, she'd probably be the last person to call it out as well, yeah.
Exactly. You know? Yeah, she doesn't want that attention.
You're sitting there quietly, Fiona, but I know you love that. Like, you love seeing that coming into the game, don't you? Just giving out forwards, like, dogging off the ball.
I'm very happy with the hard knocks that we're seeing today across a few games. I thought that in the Limerick, we're going to talk about the Limerick game in a while, the ref let a lot of hard knocks go, but he was very strict then on steps and stuff. I thought I actually don't mind whatever a referee does as long as he's consistent, and I felt like consistency is key. If you're consistent, you can learn and you can realise, oh, I can't do this under this referee. After 5 minutes, you know the story. And I'll be very careful not to take my steps or whatever. But no, I didn't see. I felt like Paddy was probably giving out a bit unnecessarily about that.
And the other side of it is like as you say, we were there, Davey, in an empty stadium. They were very vocal on the line, Cork, from start to finish. Like, Mayor Fornan never shut up from the first whistle to the last whistle. And if I was reffing that game, I probably would have given any 50-50 decisions against him as well, because he must have had a pain in his head from listening to him. It was actually annoying even sitting in the stand listening to them. Everything was shout. Everything. It's like, I don't know. I just thought it was a bit unnecessary. Like, it's hard enough to referee a game that physical without having someone in your ear every single time there's a rock or a challenge or as well. You know?
But he probably was fair as well, because I'd say it was the last puck of the game. Well, the 64 minutes was up. Galway had a free on the 65. They were calling Sarah Healy to come up to take it. Carrie Dolan walked away. Now, in fairness, Sarah's probably taking her time killing the clock. But she was, and then the ref just changed over, throw ball, and like that.
I really felt like the last 2 minutes of that game, the ref was just mad for Cork to score a goal. I just really which, you know,
he could have been waiting from. He could have been waiting from in the old accumulator fee. The drawback.
Like a few of us, but no, I'm only messing. He could have been. I don't know. He really just seemed to be as you said, he overturned that free. He gave a throw in. He gave another free. I thought it was a ridiculous free. Again, was Hennelly was involved in it. Absolutely no need for it whatsoever. Chloe launched the ball into the square, and I think in Galway's defence, fair play to them. We all know they leaked a few goals against Wexford a few weeks ago. They were so solid today.
Very good, yeah.
You were saying it during the week. I thought that was something that Cork might have tried to take advantage over, but no, there was none of that today. So I really thought the ref was giving Cork every chance they could, you know. But fair play.
Maybe Paulie's just building that siege mentality in the dressing room as well. You know, they were so wound up for today's game. You could feel it, couldn't you? For it. And look, maybe that's the route they're going this year, kind of. And everyone's against us, kind of a thing. And look, it very nearly worked from today. They were 2 sidelines away from nicking it, really, weren't they? You know, it was the first one just was a real turning point. You could almost feel the change in the game after the first one. It just seemed to be one of those events that just turned the game. But is it fair to say then, Davy, from your analysis there, from an all-star point of view, the Bourke Sports Women's Hurling All-Stars, you're looking at the Galway full-back line, Aoife Donoghue, Orla McGrath on the Galway side. Anyone else?
Ailish O'Reilly as well. She had a great game in the second half. She really stood up. Got her name on the score sheet as well in the second half when it was needed. And that's who really stood up on the Galway side of things. And Trina Cormacan. I know she only played probably 20 minutes, but she quieted Dora Cronin really well. I definitely sticking her down as well. And then on the Cork side, I thought Laura Tracy, Hannah Looney were very good, and even Laura Hayes. Laura Hayes got up for a great score. Super score on the right side on the run, probably about 50, 60 yards out. Great score. Chloe Sigurdsson, as I said, Orla Cronin. And Amy O'Connor, now she didn't get on a whole pile of ball. She probably only had 7 possessions throughout the game, but every one of them, something happened from it. Yeah,
and she just has that bit of an X factor, isn't it? Every time she gets the ball, she just lights up the place.
Exactly, and it's a joy to watch her play. Once she gets the ball, you know she's going to take it on her player, and every time she beats her. But it was just a matter of Cork probably didn't get her on the ball enough. But I'm sure that's something that they're going to look at.
Definitely. If you're a player like that, you have to get around the ball as much as you can. 7 times over the course of an hour isn't enough.
No.
I think between the flicking over between games today, I was obviously watching the Limerick game, but flicking over, I just think that Cork seemed a little less constrained today. I feel like they hurled a bit more freely today, that they did kind of what they felt like they should do as opposed to what they perhaps are being told to do sometimes. I don't know, what do you think? You were actually watching it?
No, definitely, yeah. Look, it was something we spoke about after. I think being physically wound up suits Cork.
Yeah.
Because they have a kind of a physical team, and I think, look, you know yourself over the years, good teams rise to the challenge in front of them. If you're playing a lesser team, sometimes your standards can slip towards that team, and they definitely met the Galway challenge head on today with a really good performance, Okay, Davy, thanks for that.
Two last things. Just on the dual player yesterday, did Hannah Looney play yesterday?
She did, and today. Libby Coppinger didn't play for Cork today.
Yeah. So
Hannah Looney was excellent today. She was really good.
To do that 2 days in a row, that's commendable. The other thing is Gemma O'Connor is clearly out for the rest of the season. I thought he mentioned that in his interview. So that's a big loss for Cork. That changes things dramatically for them.
It does. She's a big loss now. In fairness, you couldn't say that Hannah Looney wasn't class today as well. She's nearly the natural successor to Gemma's crown there in the heart of the defence, isn't she? She's all the same traits that Gemma has. But I suppose that leadership, isn't it? That bit of coolness, that bit of leadership.
They needed her another year.
Yeah, if it comes down to a tight game, and you could, her experience to bring the
younger players through. Gone, Gemma gone,
a lot of experience gone out of the dressing room, but Cork are in transition. So, anyways, Westmeath, Waterford.
One last point.
Please, lads.
No, it's just a big shout out to Granavan and Gary, because the last person, Rebecca Hennelly, scoring the sidelines today. Last person I know, Aoife, was up there today with RTE, and Aoife must have been delighted to see finally someone else score in the sideline, because we absolutely robbed Burgess Duhara of a Munster semi-final there in 2014, where Aoife threw a sideline over the bar, and we were all like, what's the score? I remember the umpires did this, and we're like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, he did that today as well, yeah.
Like VAR, or what's the story? But
and Davey, who had that stat for people in the stand at half time today?
Yeah.
I was on it today, I tell you. I was on it today. The shark.
Book you were.
He was at the game. Aoife was working at the game today as well.
Yeah,
so it's
great part to see it, I think. Yeah, so
right, we'll move on. Westmeath, Waterford. Sarah, I didn't see any of this game. It looked one-sided up from the scoreline. Obviously, the score doesn't tell the whole picture, of course. Johnny fairly waded into the referee after the game. So, I suppose, give us your thoughts on that. First of all, in a game you lose by 2-17 to 8 points, have you any reason to feel aggrieved by the referee, or could you see where Johnny was coming from?
No, I couldn't. Again.
Sorry, Jenny.
To my mind, it wasn't decisive. Waterford won that game fair and square. Look, Beth Carton scored 114. She scored 10 points from frees.
She'll have better days. Like, won't go too hard on her. She'll have better days.
Well, look, what I'm going to say is that Westmeath, obviously, we watched them the last couple of weeks, and they're very busy around the ball. They get 3 players in. There's lots of hands. There's lots of bodies. There's lots of legs. Some referees don't like that. So their automatic inclination is to go to the whistle. So all of that busyness wasn't suiting Westmeath. You know, it would have been better if they had probably kind of spread out a bit. They had 2 inside full forwards as a tactic, but we couldn't see where their third player was on the field. It wasn't working for them. So they were minus a player up in the forwards. We couldn't see where their player was around the middle of the field. They were too busy in their little groups, like hogging the Waterford players, and then Waterford were just tipping points over. So that busyness that he's promoted in the team, that intensity just didn't run for them today. The ref wasn't suiting it. There was 24 first half frees today that Eamon Cassidy blew. Outside of that, the water break really seemed to help Westmeath today, because in 15-minute segments he was able to talk to them and they were able to rally, and it kind of took the momentum out of Waterford. There was obviously a goal disallowed early on for Waterford. Beth went over to hand pass, the over the top hand pass, dropped the Hurley, so the hand pass was obviously pulled back. The free was awarded out, but if that goal had stood much earlier on, the game would have been over much earlier. So you know, they went in at half time 10-3 down. Had the pep talk, had the chat, came out for that third quarter, we'll call it, pulled it back kind of, you know, quite dramatically, got 4 points, and all of a sudden it was a game again for that third quarter. You'd the likes of Megan Dowdall, Pamela Greville hit an absolute monster free to put in that third quarter. Caoimhe McCrossan was very busy. Aoife Doherty was zipping about. Ava Balfe was quite busy, but they obviously went back in again. Fourth quarter, Waterford management got their hands on their players in that water break from there to the end, and obviously had tough words with them. And Waterford came out and scored 2-5 in the last 15 minutes. Outscored them 2-5-2. Beth got
that's all the running Dan did with them last week.
well, Beth got that. Yeah, Beth got that great goal, and then the outrageous goal from Niamh Rockett at the death, like plucks the ball out of the sky on the square and roaster. Like it's the goal of the season for me, and there's 3 games left.
She could fill the top 3 goals of the season if she's going.
Well,
had some absolute belters. Yeah,
plucked out of the sky. Yeah, like this one was plucked out of the sky, and actually, it looked like the ball was being taken out of her hand. And she still managed to send a rocket goal, you know, pardon the pun. So
interesting fact: Niamh Rockett's dad is actually called Eddie. Believe it or not.
Eddie
no.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is no word to lie. That is true.
He does not own the franchise.
We don't know that.
Well,
look, you're ruining a good story there, no?
Sorry,
the story.
Franchise.
Well, all I'll say is that those water breaks, you know, they were really kind of turning points today.
Yeah.
But also for Waterford in that last 15, because you know that momentum was with Westmeath. The game finished for that 30-40 seconds. Waterford lads went in and said, "Here, what are you doing?" You know, and it just refocused the Waterford girls again and went out to 4-2-5 in the last 15 minutes. So,
just on your opinion overall, like what do you make of the water breaks? Like I know there's a lot of pros and cons, or are they being used in the right way?
I think they were initially brought in to allow players to transition back to intense play. I don't think they're necessary now. Like, you know, we've had, 8 weeks, the players have been back since 14th September per se. We're now heading into the middle of November.
There is a COVID restriction on it though, isn't there? Isn't it something to do with water bottles and stuff?
They were initially brought in because it was happening in soccer across the water.
But I think what it is that it gives you the opportunity to come and drink out of your own water bottle because you can't bring on water.
Running in any GAA game at the moment, you see people running in. I don't know, was it your game, Davy, or what game was it? You all have your own labelled water bottles. A physio picks up the water bottle. It was the Limerick football game. They all have their own labelled bottles. The physio runs in with the bottle. It's absolute. I don't know.
As a former inter-county water boy, I would say you'd have to be queer fit to be bringing one bottle into each lad. That'd be tough going. I wouldn't have cut it. I'm glad we got the sack in Westmeath last year. I definitely wouldn't have been able to keep up that pace.
I think anyway. The water breaks were brought in to affiliate with, I don't know, to align with what's going on across the water. That's my view.
Brits out.
And they're absolute. It's tripe.
Well, look, just personally seeing it today, I genuinely don't think the girls needed those water breaks today. As I said, they're used to 60-minute games. They're used to the half an hour. That initial transition period where they weren't playing at that intense level, I feel, is now past. I know, David, you probably agree.
Yeah, what do you think as an in-county hurler, David? Sorry, we get water when we're in. You get water when you're injured. You get the magic water brought into you or whatever. But like, you're never looking for a drink of water in a 30-minute half for hurling or camogie or whatever, 35 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably a bit different. If it was in the middle of the summer, I'd probably be for it. But we're kind of the weather conditions now, even on a cold day, like I know the sun was shining today, but it wasn't warm. Like it was still cold. You actually don't tend to drink as much water while playing when it's cold as well. So again, at this time of year, I would say no. But in the summertime when club was on, maybe I would have kept with them.
It definitely affects the game, doesn't it? It's very frustrating if you're motoring well and the water break comes and it kills the momentum for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go back. Like the amount of times you do see it changing the course of the game is just it's interesting.
That game was like NFL, so you know that was the case in point today. Like literally on top.
I suppose the last couple of weeks, I suppose, Sarah, to keep things on track. Waterford's half back line was a real platform for them. Lorraine Bray and Kate Lynch in particular. How did they do today?
Lorraine Bray, most exceptional today. Like definitely a standout today. And I suppose the other turning point, which I failed to mention, and just because there was so much happening, I suppose, with those water breaks, but Brianna O'Regan saved an outrageous penalty, right?
So we 2 penalty saves in the championship today. It's interesting.
Yeah, and her one was a full stretch, like nice. Right across to get down to get the save today. And I suppose it would have been considered a turning point. If it would have been much closer. You know, they'd have gone. They probably, the lead had stretched out, but they would have been back in again, close to it. So in terms of her backs, and there was probably a dodgy moment when I don't know who was it who gave the ball back to her after she had saved it, so then she had to go again and actually poke it out again. So it was kind of a double save because she got such a
Brianna doesn't mind that. If you see her playing for De La Salle, like the old short one to the full back and back to the goalies, their go-to. I think she fancies herself as an outfield player like most goalies. I think Brianna does, to be fair.
Well, look, she was excellent today, and I suppose because Westmeath had gone with 2 inside forwards, Waterford had that space, and they had the extra player floating, so they weren't under as much pressure as they will be, say, against Tip.
Waterford are maturing into a real serious senior team, aren't they? I mean, like in the quarterfinals the last 2 years. I think what they did today, like from the way you're describing it, kind of coming out and knowing, look, geez, we kind of have to go and finish this now and just stepping it up a couple of gears and swatting them away. It's a real sign of a team that's kind of maturing and is able to kind of pick things up when things aren't going well.
Yeah, and I suppose getting back to the fact that Johnny Greville has retired, the difference between Westmeath and Waterford today was very evident in their striking. So Waterford's striking was much crisper, much faster, and that obviously looks much better in terms of the team dynamic. Westmeath, if they are to progress, will have to spend, the next 6 months doing nothing but striking ball and really bringing up the pace of their striking around the pitch. Because as busy as you are, when you come up against a team that is risky, comfortable striking ball left and right, you just can't match them for physicality, and you can't match them for space on the pitch. So
that's going to be a tough job for whoever takes over from Johnny, because I've seen firsthand the level of detail, level of preparation that he puts into it. Like as a coach or manager, when you're looking at a team, you're kind of going, I wonder, is there more in them? Like that's what you're kind of looking for. I don't know. I don't think Johnny has left much juice to be squeezed out of them. I'd say he's got every last drop out of them. But they have a young, I suppose, age profile apart from one or two of the more experienced players. So it's a tough gig, but an attractive gig at the same time for whoever comes in and takes it.
It's all about how quickly. Yeah, it's all about how quickly they're going.
You're not too far from Mullingar's area, yeah? You seem to have your homework done in them already. Right, all-star wise. We'll move on. All-star wise. Who are you looking at?
Well, I'm going to start with Brianna O'Regan. Look, keepers haven't necessarily been the busiest in the last 3 weeks, so that penalty save today, it puts her in the mix, definitely. Nice puck outs as well, as you said. She's very comfortable on the ball, and she's got head up when she's looking for a player. Like the ball did come back to her after the penalty, and she was still able to look up and see where she was pinging the ball after it. Lorraine Bray, absolutely.
For the third week in a row.
Yeah,
send us on your address there, Lorraine. I think we'll just fire you down the jersey there. Don't worry about the rest of the championship.
And then you have obviously, you've obviously Beth and Niamh Rockett. But like Niamh was not necessarily the most, I suppose, visible today. And when you're watching it on screen, it's harder to see it. When obviously it's more, people's work rate is more visible when you're at the games. But obviously that goal at the end, Peach. I hope RTE show that goal.
That's our third week in a row as well. Like that for Waterford, like you need your big players playing. Like for Rockett and Bray to be consistently delivering is obviously massive for them, isn't it? Like with Beth kind of looking like she's hitting form today as well.
All the best steps will be those girls today. And then obviously from the Westmeath side, Pamela Greville, she was hitting frees. The frees were coming not as quickly as they were coming for Waterford, but she was popping them over. And Megan Dowdall stepped up with a couple of scores again today when they were really needed. So they'd be my two that I suppose have
third week in a row for Megan Dowdall as well.
Yeah, well, she's consistently showed up against the bigger team. At not necessarily for 60 minutes the way say the Donahues of this world do, but she's busy and you can't let her alone. So for a first year senior, you have to be impressed by that.
Yeah. Have we got a Young Player of the Year award? Now we will, sure. Yeah, we have a Young Player of the Year. Why not? We're making everything up as we go along anyway, so fuck it, we do know. Right, so big contender for Young Player of the Year then, Megan. So well done, your first senior season.
An Old Player of the Year award just for the crack. So
yeah, I don't think anyone. You can hand that one out, Fee.
Yeah. I definitely won't be anyway.
I think I'm busy that night. Busy that day.
Fairly putting her hand up for it, I tell you, lads. 3 years that one is.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Sarah. Fiona, you had an eye on the fixture closer to home today. Well, closer to the heart anyway. I suppose Limerick at the end of a turbulent season. We talked last week, it was a daunting trip down to Kilkenny. But gave a very good account of themselves by all accounts.
Yeah, very similar to last week actually. They went down and I maintained that if they had Waterford or Kilkenny as one of their first fixtures, it would have been a bit of a different group for them. I suppose new management, not knowing the players, not knowing where to place them. Team selection was huge with Limerick, and it showed today that Judah Mulcahy was outstanding today. She starts off at half back and moved into midfield. She was outstanding there today. Like, she was everywhere. I think did she get 2 points? One lucky to get 2 more, I'd say. Herself, I think Caoimhe and Costello, obviously, and Niamh Ryan, actually, they all worked so well together today. So I'll just start with the positives from Limerick, I suppose. Laura was solid in goals. Muireann Kramer, so good at full back. I think she's shown this season, like, you know, she might be very, very sad at home tonight, I'd say, thinking, oh, what a terrible season. But she marked the best of them. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She did very well in Denise Gall today, and she did so well in Beth Carton the week before. I think she can really take a lot from this season. It was very, very positive for her. And Limerick in general, I think they gave a great account of themselves today. Look, the scoreline didn't reflect the performance in one way. In one way it did. Kilkenny are immense. They're immense. They're so, so good. And they gave a few runs to players today. They showed their bench was quite strong. I think we were talking about Aoife Doyle before in her little lob against Westmeath, and she came up today with another goal, another 1-1 for her, or 1-2 even. She was very good today. It was a good game. It was entertaining, but like Kilkenny, I think after the first water break, it was 4 points to 4 points. Limerick actually went ahead at one stage, which was brilliant to see, but they ran out of steam.
Don't say it, Davy. Stop the count. Big smiley head in the corner.
They stopped the count, like, yeah. But again, now we give out about water breaks. I think Limerick would have been delighted to see water breaks today, just give that little chance to regroup and stuff. But Kilkenny are immense. They're an immense side. No surprises as to the result. And to be fair, no surprises with the performance Limerick put in. Fair play to them. You know, they're a great bunch of girls.
Yeah, but it's very important. It's like golf, Davey, isn't it? You know, you could play absolutely stink, but if you hit a couple of sweet ones on the 18th, you look forward to coming back again. I think Limerick have played absolute rubbish for 17 holes, but they've hit a couple of sweet ones coming home. So I think they'll have something to be positive about and to look forward to, I suppose, for next year. Like we said, the Westmeath job is a big job. Like the Limerick job is a big job, an attractive one as well. Like there's talent there. There's a lot of players who've won a lot at different levels, with schools, with underage, with colleges, and with the seniors as well. Like it's only 3 years since Limerick were the senior champions in Munster. You know, so I think like the talent is there. Well, I suppose you mentioned there
2.5 hours from Dublin or 2 hours from Dublin.
I'd say you do it in about an hour and 50, Sarah. I'd say.
Would you?
Do it in an hour and 50.
Right.
Yeah. Just keep in with the new county board. That's all you have to do. That's the key to it. But there's strong rumblings of change in the Limerick County Board at the moment, and what the main success what the girls did this year is to show that there is still heart there. It was the stalwarts today that performed so well, I think. Like, fair play to the new girls that come on the scene, but it was your Caoimhe Costello's, Niamh Ryan, Sinead Mack, Lorraine Mack got a start today. I was delighted to see. She's been, you know, she's had an awful time of it with injuries and stuff. Mm-hmm.
It was your real stalwarts who performed today. And Judith Mulcahy, they showed there's heart still left in that team. It was not an easy task to go out and put on the green and white for the last few games. And, you know, fair play to them. That was their own little win, their own little victory today. I think they made it an appealing job for anyone who wants it.
Definitely, yeah. No, 100%. Look, it's an important job, I think, from Limerick's point of view, very much at a crossroads. So the minor winning team of 2014 are all 24 now. You said stalwarts there, like Judith and these are kind of pushing on into the mid-late 20s. Like something needs to happen for them in the next couple of years, or maybe that generation will kind of have missed out on really properly delivering at senior level. I think one quarter final appearance for a group with that talent isn't really enough. They really need to deliver for the next couple of years on that. From an All-Stars point of view, well, I suppose before we talk All-Stars, from Kilkenny's point of view, I suppose, Fiona, we won't see them now get until the semi-final. They've been pretty much untested for the last month. Not ideal preparation, but did we see enough in them today to think that maybe they have what it takes to go all the way?
Yeah, I do. I think they started a few different girls today and a few more came in. They have a strength and depth about them, possibly not as strong as Galway do, but they have a fine panel there, and I think they're behind the doors training sessions and going just as well as any challenge matches could have been going. They're very. What I was most impressed about today is Limerick tried it a few times. It was like these, your little hand pass. Like, was it Limerick's hand pass is going astray? It was a combination. Limerick's hand pass is going astray, and Kilkenny just, stopping that threat straight away. They were so quick to null out any like kind of passage of play Limerick tried to have, whereas Kilkenny were so solid there. There was, their passing, their recycling of the ball is something else. Like, they really, they know inherently where the rest of the players in the team are. They're a very close-knit group. I think the likes of Anne Dalton today was so good. Anne Dalton wouldn't be playing again this year if she didn't think there was something in it,
Yeah, definitely. And like, I suppose if you look at their management team as well, but like Brian Dowling, obviously, he's teacher in St. Kieran's College, with a massive tradition of winning. Tommy Shefflin coming from Ballyhale Shamrocks, are same tradition again. Philly Larkin, so it's probably one of the best cornerbacks that ever played the game, from James Stevens. Like, they have that winning mentality, as well. Like, a lot of those players have won at Loretto, have won at minor level, intermediate, senior. I think the further it goes on into the championship, the harder they will be to beat.
There are 9 other lads involved, right? They kept the tight background group.
I think you can actually see on the YouTube figures where we started talking about gender balance and just the stats started dropping. So we'll move on. We'll move on. From an all-star point of view, Fee, you've mentioned a few from Limerick there, but who really stood up for Limerick today, and who kind of?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go. I couldn't decide between. I'm going to go 4 from Limerick today, which is quite impressive for such an unfortunate loss as well. Like, Muireann, I think, has just been unbelievable from fullback all year. She's as good as any of them in any of the county teams. She's unbelievable fullback. She's just so solid, so strong over the ball. And Niamh Ryan has been a great addition this year. As I said before, Niamh has never gotten a proper chance with Limerick due to several factors, and she showed a bit of class. She scored a point today. I don't know if you saw, try and look back on the point she scored. Cueva was looking for her the whole time, you could see it. And she, took a touch on the hurley with the ball and then fired it over straight away. It's unbelievable. Such a quality score. And then Judith, I would say, so good, and just she was everywhere. Judith, like, so fit and just such a good hurler, even though she's cool tech, which I'm against Judith. She's absolutely flying it at the moment. And those are my 4 from Limerick. And then I think
who was the 4? Sorry, Niamh, Judith, and Cueva.
Yeah, Cueva was so good again everywhere today. Just showed that bit of class. You could tell the Kilkenny were worried about her, which is a great sign. Just really, really wanted it, and has given it all to the green and white this year and every year for as long as I can remember. But from a Kilkenny point of view, then Denise Gall has to get it, and Dalton, as I said, is reading in the ears. Just again everywhere. I think popped up with 3 points. She's doing it in every game. Just a solid player, and just one you can depend on. And this Aoife Doyle, again, is coming more and more into it. Got a great goal again today. Like, just was ready to pounce Gall. Took a shot. Laura dealt with it so well, but unfortunately there was just no one marking Aoife. But Aoife stuck it very, very well on the rebound there. So those are my 3 from Kilkenny. So. Very
good. That's three weeks in a row for Denise Gall and Dalton, and 3 weeks in a row for Judith Mull and Cueva Costello as well. So some serious early contenders there for the All Stars as well.
Just when you're on that, like, I'd actually be worried for Kilkenny's preparations going into an All-Ireland semi-final. Like, they haven't really been tested yet. At least Cork and Galway have both had a savage game today. When they don't have a game now for 3 weeks, like, they're going to come up against it in the semi-final with a team with momentum, winning momentum week on week, and like, you can be as much of a winner as possible, but to be tested with winning momentum, I know they've won, but coming in with a real championship test, you can't beat it, and I won't be worried for them.
No, definitely, it's an interesting one. Sorry, go on.
Would we say, though, that a lot of Kilkenny's losses in the last few years have been like up here as opposed to actually on the pitch? If they took that time, they have the players, they have the skill, they have the want. It's like, is it a mental thing at this stage with them? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I suppose, like, it's 2 very interesting points. To go to your one first, Davey, I think like, I suppose Tommy, as their trainer, like has trained WIT for a few years, and I suppose the nature of college sports, you know yourself, is you kind of it's unpredictable. So you kind of like you have to get used to getting teams to peak one week and maybe not play for 3 weeks and go again. And I suppose Ballyhale, obviously, like, you know, they'd probably win a Leinster and then have to go to an All-Ireland semi-final after a break of a couple of months. So I suppose if there's anyone at the helm who knows how to bridge a gap and make sure teams don't get stale, it's probably Tommy. You know, in fairness, would have that experience. I'm not sure about the mental thing. Feel like they have an All-Ireland one. I know they've lost a few really tight ones. Like we had Angela Downey on here, and like, you know, you could argue, I know Paudie's given out about referees, like Kilkenny got shafted a couple of years by referees in our Ireland finals, and look, last year they were just beaten, you know, like Angela admitted that herself. So I don't know. Like all those players have won at every level as well, you know. So it'll be interesting.
But
I think they definitely have this. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say that I find that the last number of years, the conversation out of the camp, certainly at a couple of the All-Star nights and stuff, was, oh, we've let her down. We've let the manager down. They were always playing for her. And I think at a certain point, they have to start playing for themselves. So now she's gone out of the mix. They don't necessarily have the same loyalty or I suppose graw for the management. It might be a much more practical relationship where they can just focus on themselves and not look at the sideline and go, God, we've let her down again.
Yeah.
You know, and
pressure having a legend over you, like, you know, that has done it all. Yeah.
So now that they've a clean slate, I think they'll be playing for themselves as opposed to playing for her, which is a much more attractive prospect for them.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Yeah.
A little lighter on the pitch, you know.
Yeah. So, Fee, all in all, to sum up, you reckon Kilkenny definitely have a shot?
I really do think so. Yeah. I'd be delighted to see another. I hate saying it, but another Galway Kilkenny like final. I just think it'll be a good game of hurling. I think the Cork bring too many tactics to it at this stage, and I just want to see, like, the All-Ireland final last year was such a breath of fresh air. And I think that when now, as I said, Cork showed today, they showed a little bit less restraint and stuff. So if Cork can keep going like that, that's fine. But I'm sick of the tactics. I just want to see a bit of hurling, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Do I agree there? Like, that was Cork's first championship game, as I said last week. But I'm calling here now that Kilkenny won't win the semi-final, no matter who they get, just because of their coming, like their track of the way they got to the semi-final. They haven't been tested yet. Coming into it'll be a titanic battle whoever they get, but they won't win.
Yeah, but it's interesting because it is an open draw, isn't it? Like, obviously, Galway, we'll talk about it in a second, but Galway and Kilkenny can't get each other, but it's open from the other side. So it's, yeah. Look, that is really interesting. I'd much rather, but I suppose I'd rather be in a semi-final waiting than have to go into a quarter-final next Saturday. As you said last week, Sarah, like there's no handy games there. So
if you look at the weather today, Cork and Kerry in the football, and
shocking.
It was torrential, and it like Cork stayed in the game, and now they're into the Munster final, and no one would have anticipated that before throwing. So you just can't at this time of year. This can,
No, you're better off sitting. You're better sitting off, but probably not the ideal preparation. But I suppose we'll find out in a couple of weeks whether it is or not, won't we? The last game in the senior championship was on Saturday. I suppose we were a bit dismissive of it and calling it a dead rubber last week. I suppose given the time of the year when it's November, and I suppose the stages of development that both teams are at, it was probably quite an important fixture for both sides. With regards to where they're going for the future and where does it lie, and I suppose to try and get championship win on the board as well, that you're hard to come by. So as I watched a little bit of this on Saturday, it did have very much a challenge match feel to it. It lacked that bit of intensity. It was a decent enough game, but like, I suppose maybe I'm just looking back at it now, having come from Salthill today, which was just 100 miles an hour, skin and hair flying, and looking back at yesterday going, it was a bit Coke Zero. Like, we had full fat Coke today and it was a big Coke Zero yesterday. So looks the same, but not quite the same. But look, I think Wexford will be very encouraged. They got 20 players on the field yesterday. Shelley Keogh was phenomenal again. Just has been so consistent for the whole championship. Ciara O'Connor, excellent as well. For Offaly, Grán Egan tried really hard again, like we spoke about her last week, when they were well beaten by Galway, that she kind of stood up and led the line. She was excellent. Trina MacDonald had a superb game at full back. and Grace Tehan again, probably the Offaly player that might make maybe one of the top 3 teams. Like she'd probably make any team. She's just such a classy player. Ultimately, I think Wexford just had a little bit too much for them. That just a little bit too much class. But I suppose it would be encouraging for Offaly. If this is their new management, there hasn't been much clarity about that, but they have plenty to work on. So yeah, that's it really to say much. There's much more to say about that. I suppose from an all-star point of view, Shelley Keogh again for the 3rd game in a row, and Ciara O'Connor, and probably Trina MacDonald on the Offaly side. So unusually enough, I suppose they won't have too long a wait until they go out in championship or go out in competitive fixture again. They'll probably go back training in January and the National League the start of February or whatever. So the managements don't have to wait too long after going over the championship. But that's it for the weekend's games. Good weekend of action. So on to the serious stuff. Knockout games next weekend. 2 games on in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. The first one, our friends in Clare, and I leave you out of that, Sarah. I've been drawn against Cork. So look, a tough draw for Clare.
Isn't it?
Tough draw for Clare. You could argue there was no easy draw in that group, I think, for various reasons.
Oh no, there was. It was easier than Cork. There was.
Well, we'll see. But look, yeah, Clare versus Cork. It's Clare's first quarter final in a good number of years. Cork have it's a while since Cork went down the quarter final route as well. Actually, I think they've topped their group that the last few years, so it's an unusual departure for them as well. We'll go to you first, Sarah. I suppose you saw Clare against Tipperary the first day, and against Wexford as well. Or not against Wexford, sorry. I Clare Wexford in my brain since last week.
Clare Dublin.
Clare got against no, what are we talking about?
Dublin,
sorry. Jeez, I'm all over the shop. Clare, so you saw Clare against Dublin and against Tipperary. You're obviously very familiar with Cork. Look, tell us how this is going to go. Like, I suppose we'll ask the straight question first. Like, do Clare have a chance here? Yes or no?
Before this evening's result between Cork and Kerry, I'd have said no. So I'm going to say that you've pointed out a number of times that Clare are very physical, and they are. They're very tall. They're very strong. They enjoy the physicality of the game. So yes, if the game next week, if the weather isn't great, and you know, if the ball is holding up, obviously Páirc Uí Chaoimh is looking in great nick, but you know, you still, and this is the other thing, it's so vast down there. There'll be a lot of open space, and I think Cork will prefer the open space more than Clare will. So, to my mind, Cork it's playing into Cork's hands, the venue.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think the semi-finals are fixed for Cork as well. So it's like, I don't know, is it fair really? I suppose, like, obviously it's a class venue, so I think it's great.
There. Like, they haven't
played Waterford there in the league this year.
There.
No, they don't, I suppose. They did play Waterford there in the league. Was the only time I think they played there in years and years, I think, wasn't it? They played them in the very first round. You were mentioning, Davey, he played in a challenge match down there. Like, pitch is just class, so it might take out those kind of conditions out of it there, I suppose, to a certain extent. Fiona, you've watched both teams as well. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'd love to be saying, like, I really think Clare have a good shout here. But again, similar to what Sarah said, the weather is mank, and they're playing. I think winter hurling really, really, really suits Clare. They've got big, strong girls who are really well able to hurl. But I think, like, the vast space, as Sarah said, will just suit the likes of Aimee O'Connor and I suppose Linda Collins. Aisling Thompson looked a bit more open today. Chloe Figure I think they'll have too much, unfortunately, for Clare. But I do expect it'll be a good game. I do expect it to be a good game.
Yeah, I suppose, like, you'd have to, those girls will have some pep in their step going to train on Tuesday night. Like, you know, like, you go from playing, I suppose, Dublin in a game in your county training ground to playing Cork in Páirc Uí Chaoimh live on television. Yeah. Like, they're the games you get involved for, aren't they? That's why you start playing sports. So, like, they're going to have some pep in their step. You know Gerald O'Connell, Davey. I know him as well. He won't fear that one bit. They've gone down to Kilkenny and won in Nolan Park this year. So, like, we've spoken on this podcast a number of times about how difficult it is to go down to Kilkenny and win. So I genuinely don't think they would have one bit of fear whatsoever. Interesting, I know you give out to me for bringing up the UL thing, Davey, but 7 of that Cork team that started today, have lost Ashbourne finals to UL in the last 4 years. UL teams backboned by the Clare team. So for the last 4 years, those Clare girls have been used to beating 7 out of that 15 Cork team without much difficulty and with quite a bit of regularity. So they like different jerseys. They're not going to fear these players either. Like, you know, and like you've played with LIT and played county. Like, am I being a bit, I don't know, naive trying to draw a line between the form? Does it make any difference, or would you get a bit of confidence knowing, here, listen, I took that lad, and if it's given game, I've no problem taking him again in a championship game?
Most definitely, and it goes even down to the same level as a challenge game. You get on top of a player in a challenge game, you know that come championship you can do the same thing. I like the way Jorah Conlon has Clare playing. I like the way they're going and they're improving the whole time, but what I've seen today, I don't think they have much hope, no matter what weather conditions. I just think Cork will have too much for them. The way Cork's fluidity in the forward line, the way they had a real structure, but were still able to play and express themselves basically. I think it's going to be too much for Clare, no matter what the weather conditions, because Park Equive is in unbelievable condition. Like, it's better than Croke Park, the surface. And you can even see the amount of rain that fell, was it last week for Limerick and Tip?
Limerick, yeah.
Tonight for the football, Cork and Kerry, like, the pitch is in unbelievable condition. And saying that, Cork will or might have a few injury worries. Like Amy O'Connor, I know she's a tough cookie, but she was holding her ribs coming off the field today.
You'd be too Sean Heaney ran into like that.
Yeah, that's true. Laura Tracy was hobbling as well. So, like, it's going to take them a couple of days to get rid of them little niggles. So, again, Tuesday they probably won't do anything. Thursday, they'll do very little again, and they're going straight into Saturday. But, again, you can't look past Cork. Like, Cork look impressive. And just a quick one, like, the All-Ireland champions the last couple of years. In 2019, Galway came in the back door, All-Ireland champions. 2016, Kilkenny lost in the group, Tug Galway beat them in the All-Ireland. Going back to 2015, Cork lost in the group to Galway again, came back into the final and beat them in the final. You'd wonder, is 2020 going to be something similar? Like, that's what Paddy would be bringing that group together and saying that's what we'll have to do.
Yeah, you can definitely, there is a risk of getting caught cold, like, you know, it's sitting inside waiting the semi-final. Having the game can be an advantage, definitely. I suppose, like, when we were talking about the Cork-Galway game there, we probably maybe didn't give enough time to how impressed we were with Cork, because I suppose we talked about Paddy giving out a vote to ref, and obviously we talked about Galway winning the game, but, like, we probably should have said a bit more, like, geez, like, Cork were very impressive today, like, you know, as well. That didn't come across in the analysis, but, like, they were, like, you know, so.
If it wasn't for them two sidelines, like, they're double the points, take away, even if they only were 1 point each, it's back to a point, and there was probably a scoreable free that they dropped short looking for the goal. Like, that's probably the difference. And exactly, they're an impressive side.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, look, that's going to be really interesting. And in the second game, like, I'd say that this is going to be spicy. Like there's history here. I'd say Donal O'Rourke is sickened he's not still the manager. I'd say he would love another crack off Tipperary. I just know by him. Obviously, for anyone that was living under a rock last year, Waterford were 5 points up against Tip in the group stage. Obviously, the game had to be called off because of the delay for an ambulance. Waterford weren't happy with it. We had Donal on the podcast here. But then Tip went and gave an incredible display and beat them in the replayed game, or the refixed game down in Nolan Park. So these two teams have served up a serious fare for us in the last 12 months. Davey, you've had a close eye on both of these teams, particularly Waterford, during the championship. What can we expect here?
Again, as you said, fireworks. Like, both teams will fancy their chances to win. And again, like, I would have said Tip, but I believe Aisling Maloney is going to be still suspended.
No.
Yeah,
she got 2 games.
That's the thing, she is phenomenal. And just because of that, I bring into a 50-50 game. If she was playing, I'd say Tip. But again, now it's going to go, I think it's going to go right down to the wire. And I think Waterford will just sneak it in the end.
Yeah, and Orla Dwyer as well, of course, in Australia as well. Orla Dwyer with Australia on Thursday.
Year,
so. Sorry, Sarah, go on.
Do you remember last year with Quite Divan down in Park Keep?
Yeah.
It was last year, and she got absolutely cleaned by the referee. Every time she went forward, there was a free against her. It was a fierce, and she was on so much ball. Hopefully that won't happen to her again today, because I didn't see anything wrong with what she was doing in that game, and it was in Park Keep. And I remember it vividly. I was like, Jesus, would you just let her through? Every time she went on a run, he was pulling her up and a free out, and it was so unusual to see the forward getting so much attention from the referee. If Coit gets the space next weekend, I don't think they'll hold her.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I suppose in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, they'll get the space. Like, and we said it here at the start that this team were just waiting to get into that field with space. But then I suppose 2 weeks, a long time in sport, and now they're heading in without Orla Dwyer, without Ashley Maloney, who were like big physical players, strong runners. Like, okay, they're only 2 players, but what it does mean is that Fergal O'Brien now will be able to focus on Caught a little bit more, whereas, obviously, yourselves, the more forward threats you have, the harder it is. The one thing you will say about Tipperary is they have some serious talent on the bench that maybe hadn't been getting starts, like Casey Hennessy and Emer McGrath, who regularly lighted up in the club scene in Tipperary. So, look, it's hard to replace players. Like, Tip were so impressive that day against Clare. So impressive. Not so much in a tight pitch against Dublin. Down a couple of players. It'd be interesting to see. Tip on their day are capable of incredible things. I suppose they maybe struggle for that consistency or repeatability of performance at times from game to game. If we look at Waterford, Davy, like, we've both been really impressed with Waterford, how they've gone about their business. Like, Donald had them flying last year. And it just looks like Fergal and Dan have just brought something a little bit different again this year, and just been able to kind of take them on another few steps again. So you have to say they have a real chance here, don't you?
Yeah, that's who I think. I think without Ashley Maloney, I think it's a 50-50 game. But I'm going for Waterford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, if the way they play, like you said, Lorraine Bray was class today. Like, yourself, Davy, as a half forward. Last thing you want to be doing is chasing a half back down the field, or if she's making a few contributions to the scoreboard or assists, and next thing you're looking over the sideline going, Jesus, you're waiting for the curly finger. You're kind of going, not only am I not going forward, I'm not even stopping my player going the other direction. Like, and they've Kate Lynch on the other wing, who's more than capable of doing that. Shona Curran has given him a real solid base in the middle of the field. Rocket is absolutely flying. Bet's hitting form. Annie Flynn, Abby Flynn and Annie Fitzgerald are really, really lively in the corners. Like, we talk about the space suiting Tip, the space will suit Waterford as well. It could be a long day. It's a really interesting one. Like, 2 cracking games. If we go around the group for the predictions, we'll start with you, Davy, because we can't start with Sarah. We know that. We'll start with you, Davy. Clare against Cork.
Yeah, I think Cork will just have too much for them all over the field, no matter what weather conditions. Cork will win by a few points.
Okay, that's you keeping your head down in Carrigohan, or where did you play? You train for the next couple of days. Tip against Waterford.
Yeah, Waterford by a point or 2. Again, I'm really looking forward to that game in particular. The best thing about that is both teams would be expecting to win, and it's going to serve up a cracker of a game.
Could be really high scoring, actually. Like, both teams love going forward. Like, Karen Kennedy probably midfield for Tip. All she wants to do is go forward. Niamh Tracy centre back for Tip. All she wants to do is go forward. Like, both half back lines be passing each other out, going the other way. Look, it has all the makings of a cracking game. Really can't wait. It's a peach of a tie. And like, the funny thing is like, both of those teams would really fancy their chances in a semi-final as well. Like Fergal and Bill are probably both looking at this going, this isn't a bad draw at all. Like, both of them will fancy the draw. And we've lost Fiona, have we? Both of them will fancy the draw. And of course, progressing further. Sarah, Clare against Cork.
Cork.
Yeah, and Tip against Waterford.
Tip.
Ooh.
It's just for that, the Clare v Cork one. It's going to be really interesting what to do with Orla Cronin. Like, Niamh O'Dea has been centre back. Is she going to follow Orla? Is she going to sit? Are they going to have someone man marker? Like, I don't know what to do, because when Niamh is probably best sitting and commanding that area, but she can't let Orla go and do what she did, especially in the first half today. So that's going to be a really intriguing battle, who picks her up.
We were chatting about this last week. Remember, we were saying, look, if a centre forward starts wandering, what do you do? You know, like you'd have to sit, wouldn't you? Like early doors anyway. First 10-15 minutes, get to the first water break. You know, maybe play with 5 forwards and let Niamh sit in the centre of the defence, because the last thing you want to do is give Amy O'Connor and Linda Collins the run of Páirc Uí Chaoimh inside with no centre back inside in front of them. Like, it could be over by the water break. You know, I think they really have to bed in and go down with the siege mentality and stay in the game for as long as they can. And like, if they do stay in the game for as long as they can, they do have the talent going forward to pick them off. But I think you've probably nailed it there, Davey, in one sentence. Like, how they handle Orla Cronin, and that goes for any team going forward. How you handle Orla Cronin is going to be the key to try to beat Cork. You know.
I know I give Clare an awful doing about, obviously, like, generally, but like, their inside full forward line is always very effective, and I do really like them as hurlers. It's just that the distribution will be so important for them. We saw the last day with Wexford, Joanne Dillon, all the skill in the world, she got no ball against Cork, and she was null and void. So if Cork go with that high intensity and go high on the Clare backs, and the distribution is poor, then all the skill you have in the world inside isn't going to find its way to the scoreboard. So it's going to be a real task for the Clare backs to get the ball out that actually merits and turn scores for Clare, you know.
Mm-hmm. Especially the way Clare have been playing, like they want to build the ball up with these short passes, but the work rate of the Cork forward line will dictate if they're able to do that or not. And if they get turned over a couple of times in the first half and score goes on the board, it's very easy to get your head down and, Jesus, we can't do that again, and go away from the tactic of what they've been trying to do and building on, and just try and go along, and then a Cork half back line mop up everything. So it's going to be a tricky one. Like,
today was a real eye opener for us, Davey, wasn't it? Because I suppose for me, coming out of the stadium today, I was kind of thinking, geez, I'm not sure if there's any teams outside the top 3 that are able to produce that intensity. You know, it was a real kind of, the championship started today for me, like, it was just like, wow, this is a different level to what we've seen. You know, like, we had been impressed at Tipperary before and that, but like, I'm not even sure if they have the physical makeup to go toe to toe with that kind of intensity. It was just ferocious. Like, so it was from start to finish on the line, like everything. It was just bananas. So, it's hard to see Clare living with it, to be honest. Joy, it just is. It's hard to see any team living with the top 3 at the moment, the way they've gone. Fiona, you've rejoined us.
Sorry.
The old Wi-Fi left you down there. So look, we'll go to you for the predictions so far. Look, we've two for Cork. We're split on Tip and Waterford, so you get to decide and vote on that. So we'll start with Clare and Cork first.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cork there. I'd like to see Clare. I'd like to be able to say Clare, but not after seeing Cork today. And Cork will always, as I said before, or I said last week, Sarah, they've 13, not 14 people on the sideline there. They'll come out with a good plan against Clare, and I think they'll get over the line, no bother, you know.
Yeah, they had one guy on the far sideline today as well. I was really tick over. I got sent off in the championship match in Offaly for arguing with the referee. I was over on the far sideline. He said I shouldn't be there, and he sent me off. Their lad had the run of the sideline today over on the far side. So,
and that's a huge thing with COVID now. I've had 1 or 2 arguments with a ref over that as well.
Yeah.
And wasn't even playing actually. But
I feel hard done by. You know, what I said to the ref afterwards is indefensible, but he shouldn't have started the argument in the first place. Right, tip for you, Waterford, Sophie. You have to decide on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go Waterford definitely here.
Oh,
definitely.
Yeah, I would say if Ashley Maloney and Orla Dwyer were playing, I actually would find it hard to call. But without those 2 playing, I actually, thinking about it, I don't find it hard to call at all. I'm Waterford all day long.
A solid vote of confidence in Waterford. That's really interesting. So look, if the predictions go as we said, we'll have Cork and Waterford going into one bowl with Tipperary, with Galway and Kilkenny in the other bowl for the semi-final on Saturday evening.
I'm just if that's the way, I'm just after realising that I said that Waterford would be Kilkenny, but we'll leave that alone.
Yeah. Although, yeah, we've had no really controversial statements this week. We think we seem to use them all up last week between two.
I didn't
matches and Claire.
I didn't my head, if that makes any. I left them off though.
Yeah. Look, we can't overdo it. Like the boy who cried wolf. It's controversial every week. It's not really controversial.
It'll be random. Don't worry, they'll come out.
But guys, that's it. Look, a really exciting day. To look forward to next week with the senior games. Before we finish up, the intermediate championship is continuing at pace. There seems to be a structure on it now as well. Obviously, they had to redraw the championship. So this week in the intermediate, Antrim had a massive win. I know we tipped them at the start to be thereabouts.
I tipped Meath.
Oh yeah, they beat Meath. Yeah, sorry, I tipped Antrim. My good form today continued. I'm just having a good day. That's all. Antrim 116, Meath 2-9. Really big win for them. We said before, Antrim have a really experienced management team and have a lot of good young players coming through that are competing at A level in minor and A level in schools. They're doing it the right way. And look, they're into a semi-final now. Kerry turned over Carlow after extra time. A massive win for Kerry. Their first year up in intermediate level. So a huge win for them. They're into the quarter final as well. They won 213 to 113. Derry hammered Kildare 115 to 5 points. One little point on this, guys. I don't know if anyone saw the stream. Both teams were wearing different coloured jerseys. Kildare were wearing Johnstown Bridge, which was blue and green with white skirts and white socks, and Derry were wearing some club jersey with red skirts then and maroon jerseys. Like, Jesus Christ, could you not just ask the men's county board for the loan of a second set of jerseys? It's an All-Ireland championship game. For the love and honour of God, will you just treat the players like county players?
Or flip.
That wouldn't happen in Dublin. There you go.
It wouldn't happen in Dublin, Sarah. Jeez, the Dublin kid is class.
They probably have do they?
But like, all you have to do is, like, Limerick had played in blue loads of times. You're like, Joy, just ring the county board and go, listen, can we just have a set of jerseys? It just looked cat. Like, come on, guys, you're all better than that. Okay, you're all better.
We wore the footballers' jerseys, obviously.
Yeah, the blue ones, yeah.
They weren't our own jerseys. Just FYI, like, obviously.
No, we didn't have a second kit, no. And then in the last game, Down, who I've been very impressed with during the year, and Eve Mallon was on fire for them. They beat Laois 213 to 1-8. So the live play in the intermediate championship is quarterfinals next weekend. Kerry play Laois and Derry play Meath, with Down and Antrim waiting in the semi-finals. Had a few texts about this on WhatsApp and Twitter. They've pre-drawn the semi-finals, and it means that if Kerry and Meath both win, the semi-finals are going to be a repeat pairing of this weekend's games, which seems a bit odd. You would have just thought that they could have just flipped it and avoided teams playing each other twice in the space of a fortnight. But yeah, look, it is what it is. And really good news for you, Sarah. The Nancy Murray Cup final has been live streamed and covered by the Camogie Association.
Can I go?
Next week. You can if you want. No one's stopping you. Well,
obviously. Yeah, where is it at?
that is a good question. Let's check. If we get onto the website here, in fairness, Camogie Association website is slick since they did it up as well.
Yep.
Cavan versus Tyrone is on in Inniskeen in Monaghan next Saturday at 4 o'clock. So 6 o'clock. Sorry. So best of luck to both teams. Interestingly,
Sarah,
both teams actually go into the Premier Junior semi-final, which is quite daunting. Afterwards. So
get me on the media list for that. I'd like to go.
We will indeed. And if Keane is listening, you might squeeze us into Parky Queeve there on Saturday as well, if you don't mind. Just, sound. Thanks very much.
Cork Monaghan, it seems like
oh man, how sickened would you be if, like, what you really wanted to do is go to Parky Queeve for tipping Waterford and you end up in Inniskeen and Tyrone against Cavan? That's like, no offence to anyone, but Jesus.
Tyrone fiance here.
I'll go for the show a bit of sport. She'll probably end up playing for him, will you? If they get promoted, you'll be playing for him.
Well, now I might put in the transfer, see how I get on.
That's it.
One life, 3 counties, not for that.
Yeah.
That would be new.
That would definitely be a record. All right, guys, thanks very much. If you're watching on YouTube, hit like, subscribe. Listening on Spotify or iTunes, hit like and subscribe to that.